The purpose of this video is to learn how to create a drag and drop labeling activity in Google Slides. This type of activity can be used in all subject areas. It could be used for in-person learning, but would also be great to post as an assignment for virtual learning. The first thing you have to do is decide what you want students to be able to move and what you don't want them to be able to move. As an example, if I want students to label parts of a plant cell as an assessment, I wouldn't want them to be able to move the actual diagram or the directions. I would want them to be able to move the labels. So I'm going to show you how to essentially lock items that you don't want students to be able to move. So let's begin creating the activity. So I have two Google Slide presentations open here. One is going to be where I'm going to create the locked page, and the other one is going to be the actual activity that I'm going to send to students. So I'm actually going to name this presentation Content Creation Master Slides. Today I'm going to create a cell activity. Well, tomorrow I might make an activity about mitosis. If I'm an English teacher, I might make something about independent and dependent clauses. So each time I go to make a new activity, I'm going to add a new slide to create the locked version of what I don't want students to move. So this presentation will end up being a library of my master slides. And that hopefully that will make sense later as we continue in this series to create content. So I have my blank page. I like to work on a blank canvas, so I am going to click and drag to highlight everything and click delete so I don't have any text boxes. So the two things that I don't want kids to be able to move, I don't want them to be able to move the plant cell diagram that they're going to be labeling, and I don't want them to be able to move the directions. So we're going to add those two things. Now for the diagram, we are all super busy. I am not going to reinvent the wheel. I'm going to check Google image search to see if there's stuff out there that I can use. And I actually did a search. I searched for blank plant cell diagram to label. And I hope that by being super specific, I would find something good. And as you can see, we have all these different versions, depending on what level you're teaching. I know in the lower grades, they don't do as many cell parts. In middle school, we add to the knowledge that we learned in fifth grade. The one that I'm going to select here is this very first one that pops up. It looks like a worksheet, has a title, directions, and then where the kids can write their answers. And again, you see what they're pointing to. And I'm going to pick this one for a very specific reason, because I want to show you how you can crop parts out of the picture that you do not want. So to get this, there are two ways. You could either right click on it and save the image to your desktop and then drag it over, or you could right click and copy the image. And you can do that right clicking or, Command V. So I'm going to go back to the presentation. I'm going to right click and click paste. You could also do that. I'm sorry, copy is Command C, paste is Command V. So I'll move that over here. Now it's kind of small, and so I could drag the corners to make it bigger. And remember that when you drag from the corners, that protects the ratio of everything. Everything's going to stay the same size in relation to one another. If you pull the sides, that's when you're going to get a warped image. So we don't want to do that. I want everything to stay the same ratio that it is. But I don't need this name and date. I don't need the title. I don't need the directions because I'm going to put those on the slide. I'm actually going to have kids drag labels to the actual diagram. So I am going to crop the image. Now, when you click the image one time, you get the blue perimeter where you can resize. But if you double click it, you get the black perimeter. And at each one of these bolder lines, you can, when you hover over it and you see how the cursor changes, you can actually click and drag down, and you can kind of just keep working at it until it's the way you want. Now this part of the picture dimmed, that means that when I click off, it's not going to be included in the image anymore. So I got that where I wanted it. Nothing's cut off up here. I don't want this part. And, getting as close of a crop as I can is beneficial because then I can, make my image larger. I have more space to make my image larger. I'm just going to slowly drag that up. I don't want to cut off the bottom of the image. Okay, I think I cut a little bit off, so there we go. And now I'm going to click off, and you see that the blue perimeter is now just the diagram. And I want to maintain the ratio, so I'm only going to drag from one of the four corners. So drag and really make that bigger for your kids. So that's definitely more visible than it was before. So I'll put that to the side. And then I'm going to add the directions. So I'm going to add a text box. So click on the text box icon, click and drag to draw your text box, and then type out the directions. Now here's where you can make it pretty. You can highlight bold, you can change the color of the text if you want to, you can make it larger, you can drag this and play with the spacing of the words. That's all personal preference. So if I assigned this to kids as they're clicking and dragging around, they could accidentally move that, and that's what we're trying to avoid here. So now that I have this slide created, I'm going to make sure I click over here on this slide so you can see the orange perimeter. This is the slide that I'm selecting. What I want to do is download this slide as an image, and that will allow me to insert the image as a background on the actual activity. So with the orange perimeter, you click on there to make sure that this slide is selected. Then you'll click File, Download, and you are going to download this as a JPEG image or a PNG image. The difference between those, if you've ever been working in a document, that you had something with a white background, and when you put it on a white background, you can't tell the white background's there. But if you move it to something that's colorful, then you see the square. So the PNG image has a transparent background, but the JPEG image has a white background. For the purposes of this activity, this really doesn't matter. So we're just going to do JPEG image. So download that as a JPEG image. Now you can leave it in your downloads folder. Whenever you download it, it's probably going to go to your downloads folder. I just cleared my folder, so it's the only thing in there, but a lot of us have a lot of things in their download folder. So what I have a habit of doing, just to find things more quickly and easily, is I will always click on the arrow and show in Finder. That will open the window, and you can see it highlights it. And then I'll move this window to the side, and then see it's still kind of grayed out there. And I will actually just drag it to my desktop just so I can find it more easily. So that's there. Now I'm done with this presentation for now. Now the next time I want to create my next activity, I'm just going to add a slide and make the master part that I don't want students to move. I'm going to make that here. And this is, like I said, this is going to end up being my master slide library, because as we reflect on our teaching and we want to make changes to things, this is where you would go to make changes, and then re-download the image for your presentation. So I'm going to go to this presentation here. And this one is going to be my plant cell diagram. And it's going to be at the end of a lesson, so this will be my debrief. Again, I want to work with a blank canvas. So I'm going to put my cursor in the corner, click, hold, and drag to get everything on the slide. You can see the perimeter there. Delete, everything goes away. Now I'm going to take the work that I just did and I'm going to insert it into the background. So click Background, Image, choose Image. Upload is the first option. We'll click Browse to find it. And we just added it to the desktop and it's the only thing that's on there. So I'll click that, and that is correct. And then we'll open. and click done. So now that pops into the activity as an image. Now, if I click, click, nothing can be moved. Nothing can be moved. So your kids, as they're clicking around, they're not going to be able to make any changes to the background structure of this activity. Now what we want are the items that they can drag and drop. And for this, we're going to use shapes. And within each shape, we are going to edit the text. Now here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 labels that we need. I'm going to get the first one exactly as I like it, and then I'm going to copy it 6 times so that I don't have to do this first part when I'm making the label over and over and over. It's going to save you time. So I'm going to look at the shapes here. I want the shape to fit there, so triangle would be best. I'm going to do the one with rounded edges. I like that. So I'm going to actually put it right here to make sure I can get the right size, and maybe make it just a little bit bigger there. And it's okay if we go off the line a little bit. All right. So then I'll move this over here. Now you're going to edit the color, the border, to make it whatever you want. So it's got a gray fill right now. I'm going to change the fill color to green because we're working with plants. I like the thicker border, so maybe we'll do 3 point. See, thicken the border. And then with it selected, I'm going to right click and click edit text. And then I'll start typing what I want there. I'm going to highlight it, and that's where I'll get my text the way I want it. Oh, I like that one. And I'll center it. So I formatted that whole label there, made the text bigger so you can see it. I changed the border, changed the fill color, got the right font that I want. And now I'm going to duplicate this one and just change the text so I don't have to do those other steps over again. So I'm going to select it. You can Command C to copy, or you can right click and copy. And then I'm going to click off of it and just hit Command V 6 times. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. And then I will move those so they're in a line. Okay, I want to move all of them up to the center. So rather than selecting each one, let's see if I can get them to, there we go. Rather than moving each one, what I'm going to do is select all of them, drag the cursor to make a box to collect all of them, and I'm going to hit the up arrow to get them where I want them. There we go. I want to move them over to the side a little bit more, so I'll do that again. Just with the right arrow. There we go. And now I'm going to change the text so we have all the labels that we need for this. So I'm going to do this in random places so it's not in any particular order. Cytoplasm, cell membrane. Oh, so since that text is too large, I'm going to triple click to collect everything, and then I'm going to reduce the size until it fits. There's a nucleus. There is a vacuole. Mitochondria. Oops. So triple click, 1, 2, 3. There we go. And then reduce. 2, 3. And chloroplast. So that is the activity. So, students can't click anywhere in the background, but they can click and drag here. Now, one of the reasons I went with a shape instead of a text box here is because it's easier for kids to click and drag it. If you do a text box, a lot of times what they'll do is they'll click it and it'll put it in editing mode where the cursor will go in there and they won't be able to actually drag it. So it's easier for kids to catch and grab this the first time if you do this as a shape instead of a text box. So that is how to make a drag and drop activity. When you're distributing this to students, you do upload it as a Canvas assignment, and it would make a copy for every student. You could also do this in breakout rooms, so kids could do the debrief activity. There's lots of different applications that you can do here. Labeling activities do work for many subject areas. Other places in science, you could do parts of a longitudinal wave, stages of mitosis. In English, you could have them labeling parts of a plot map. You could look at sentences and label the independent, the dependent clauses. You could look at pieces of text and label the main idea, or pieces of writing and find the thesis and the supporting details. For history, the structure of government, labeling parts of the lawmaking process. There's lots of different applications here. So hopefully this gives you another tool for your toolbox on how to take content that you find and just digitize what you've already been using so the kids can work virtually or in person.